One of the saddest things that I see is how people suffer from fear of attempting what it is that they really want to do. This especially is true when people have a passion or just a strong desire, something they're really interested in, and they won't do it. They won't tap into that potential because they're afraid to. And it's really sad to see how much fear limits people. So if you want to learn more about how to overcome that limitation of fear, I've succeeded a lot, but I've also failed so many times. And I also coach people who they're coming out of a failure, or they want to know how to replicate more success. So if you want to know more about how to do this, keep watching. Hey, this is Damon Cart from Life Mastery Gym, bringing you cutting-edge processes and techniques and mindsets to help you master yourself so that you can master your life and create the life of your dreams. So if that sounds good to you, please click subscribe to this YouTube channel so you can get these videos on a regular basis. So how do you overcome fear of failure? Well, the quick answer to that is to reframe it. What do I mean by reframe it? I'm going to get more into this in a moment. Fear is not a bad thing necessarily. What happens though is fear becomes too much in your life. Fear overwhelms us sometimes. We serve it rather than the fear serving us. And what we want to do is we want to put the fear that we experience into the context of it serving us rather than us serving it. If you're not doing something because you're afraid to do it, and I don't mean anything like super risky, like jumping off of a building or some of the crazy stuff you see on YouTube. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. I'm talking about taking risks like starting your own business. And it doesn't even have to do with business. Maybe it's for men a lot of times, just asking that woman out who you've been afraid to ask out. And even women, I really encourage women to ask men out. It's so cool when that happens. And so you may want to talk to somebody and you're crippled by fear and you just won't do it. Or you hate your job and you want to go get another job, or you want to go back to school, or you want to start your own business, and fear is stopping you from doing this. So how do you deal with this? What do you do with it? You don't want to get rid of fear, because fear tells you, it's a good alarm system. It alerts you to something that might be dangerous, something that might harm you. Or if it is going into some sort of new venture that you want to attempt or you want to try, then fear sort of raises an alarm and says, look into what it is that you're doing before you do it, just to make sure that you're not putting yourself in any sort of trouble. So that's where fear is very helpful. So we don't want to shun fear, we don't want to push it away, because the more we push it away, the more we shove it down into the dark recesses of our unconscious, the more it controls us, and it controls us usually in irrational ways. We start to come up with irrational fears, where, like I was talking about, just walking up to a woman and talking to her because you're interested in her. No, there's no physical harm that can come to you as long as you're being nice. Now, if you're a jerk about it, and then her boyfriend happens to be there, now you're talking about some possible risk, dangerous risk. But considering that you're a normally well-adapted social being, there's no harm or risk just walking up to someone and introducing yourself and talking to them. But the more we don't explore what this fear is, and the more we shove it away, the more it controls us, and like I said, in irrational ways. So the key here is to look at the fear and see, well, what is it trying to show me? What is its positive intent behind the fear? Now that's one way that automatically you start to reframe it as soon as you do that. As soon as you start to look at fear as something useful and positive, that's your first reframe. So find that positive intent. What is fear helping you with? What is it doing for you? What information is it trying to bring your attention to? And so now you're making friends with the fear. You're not shoving it away. You're becoming conscious of it, and you're accepting it as part of you that's just trying to help you. And this is extremely powerful. A lot of times this alone will put the fear in perspective and then allow you to move forward and go forward and do what it is that you want to do. Now, the other key to this is something I learned from watching a video of Maynard James Keenan. He's the singer for the heavy metal band Tool. He also has two other bands, A Perfect Circle and Pussifer. And he makes wine in Arizona, commercial wine, not just like in his basement. He actually is a winemaker. He also is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu artist. He's I think a purple belt. This guy goes after everything. Nothing stops him. And it's not because he's trying to feed his ego. It's because he sees possibilities and he goes out there and tries them. And he admits that he fails all the time. And when I was watching this video, I'll see if I can link the videos that I was watching of him to this video. As I was watching these videos, I was like, wow, it's so interesting to watch a guy who's so successful admit that he has fears, admit that he has failures, because to us, a lot of times it looks like he just succeeds at everything, but of course nobody does. And I go to trainings and summits all the time where I'm listening to multi-millionaires, sometimes even billionaires, talk about their failures and their successes. So this happens for all of us. So the difference between those people and pretty much everyone else is they don't let fear stop them. And how Maynard Keenan explained it is that when he was in high school, his father was a teacher and his wrestling coach. So he went to a school where his father taught, and not only taught like subjects in the school, he also taught him wrestling. And he was the wrestling coach for the team. And he said, when you win, when you have a success, you don't normally learn that much from that. You don't really learn that much from winning and succeeding. You learn something, but not a whole lot. It feels good. It's wonderful to succeed. It's wonderful to win. But when you lose, when you fail, you turn that into a win by looking at it as a learning. If you walk away from a loss, a failure, and we all have, and that's one of the driving reasons that fear cripples us, is because we fear disappointment, we fear failure, because we've had them. We have reference experiences to back this up. If we walk away from that hurt and without learning from that experience, that's where the irrational fears are fed. That's how we increase those irrational fears, because we haven't looked at what actually happened here. We only stay in the emotion of fear without learning anything. However, if we realize that when we lost or we failed, that there is something to be learned here, and in learning it, then that increases our chances of succeeding and winning next time. Now, fear and loss, or failure and loss, doesn't seem like failure and loss anymore, because you've gotten something out of this. That's the whole idea. When you win, you get something. When you lose or fail, you also get something, if you're willing to explore it. But a lot of people get so hurt, they just walk away and they don't want to explore it. But now that you know this, you're not going to do that anymore. What you're going to do is, anytime you fail at something, anytime something doesn't work out, anytime there's a loss, you're going to step back and you're going to say, okay, what can I learn from this? Because there is no losing. There is only winning and learning. Make that your mantra. There is only winning and learning. There is no failure. There is only feedback. That's a NLP presupposition. Failure is just feedback. There is no finality to failure and losing. You gather that information, you look at it and you say, okay, what did I learn here? And how can this be useful to me going forward? Even if I never try that same thing again, that information about whatever I learned from that loss will help me in so many other areas. How can I map this across to other areas of my life? That's what you want to look at anytime you fail or you lose. And so it's a constant, in motion progress. You win or you learn. You win or you learn. Think about that too, as far as the motion of this. You're always moving forward. You might have a temporary setback, you might have a valley, but then you're on your way back up to a new peak. When you reframe failure this way, nothing will stop you. Nothing will ever stop you again. And like I said, the saddest thing is to see so much untapped potential. So many people suffering because they want to do so many things. They have these passions, they have these ideas, they have these desires, things that they want to do, and yet they won't because of something that happened in the past, some sort of failure or loss that happened in the past, and they can't get over that. And they can't get over that feeling and that emotion because they don't know how to reframe it. They don't know how to look at that as a learning experience. you want to detach those emotions. It's not that you don't want to feel the emotion of fear. You allow yourself to feel that, because again, if you push that away, it will come back to haunt you. So you allow the feeling of fear, but then you reframe and you say, okay, how do I learn from this? How do I learn and move forward from this? Just remember too, emotions, while they are important and you don't want to push them away, they don't tell you a whole lot of information about what actually happened. I get emotional sometimes in my business, and my assistant will come to me and say, well, the numbers say this, and I'll have to go, oh, yeah, I guess nothing's really changed. The numbers don't lie. So make sure you're using a rational feedback system. If you can apply math, especially if you're in a business, if you can apply math and you're tracking things, then that'll bring that rationality back to you, even when you're in those high emotional states. I've lost big clients before in various businesses, and I got upset about that. But then when I looked at my overall progression, I was actually moving up still. So are you still moving forward? That's the main key here. Are you still progressing? If you're not, then you've got a problem. But a lot of times that's us holding ourselves back because we're too emotional or we're too stuck in fear. So make fear serve you instead of you serving fear. Use the win or learn reframe, and I assure you things will become very, very different in your life. You can find me every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. right here, Pacific Standard Time, and we're going to talk more about this. I'm going to go into more about what it means to win or learn, and I'm going to answer your questions as well. So you want to tune into that. And also, in order to make sure that you know when these are coming up, you want to subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and hit that bell. That bell will notify you when I upload a video. I normally upload on Wednesdays, and I regularly will be going live on Saturday mornings, but sometimes I get excited about something and I have a video and I want to put it out there really fast. Hitting that bell will let you know when that video comes out. If you would like some training on what I go over here in my videos about how to master your life, how to build skills that become unconscious so you don't have to think about them and that they become more of like an automation, I have free trainings on my website, lifemasterygym.com. Make sure you go there and check those trainings out. Now I'd like to hear from you. If you have ever turned a failure or a loss into a learning that really helped you, just type yes right down here in the comments, and feel free to tell me more about it. I'd love to hear about these stories. Take care.